Welcome to State of the Offense, fantasy football-based coverage of your favorite team's offense, the Jacksonville Jaguars. In the skill positions, the Jaguars bring back their starters from last season except for Marvin Jones. Former Atlanta Falcon wide receiver Calvin Ridley will replace Jones in the lineup. In the draft, the Jaguars added two new playmakers in tight end Brenton Strange and running back Tank Bigsby. On the offensive line, Jacksonville will bring back 6 linemen who started games from last year. With the 27th pick in the first round, the Jags added Anton Harrison from Oklahoma to shore up the tackle position. Starting left tackle Cam Robinson will be suspended in the beginning of the season. Last year, Robinson graded at a 79, which was good enough for him to be the 22nd best left tackle. Walker Little is expected to fill in for Robinson during the suspension. Little started 3 games last year and he graded at a 68, which would rank him as the 31st left tackle in the league. Left guard Ben Bartch suffered a knee injury in Week 5. Bartch started training camp on the PUP list. Bartch also graded at a 69, which ranked him in the 23 to 25 range of starting left guards. After Ben Bartch's injury, Tyler Shatley stepped into the lineup. He rated at a 72 for the year. He played in 13 games and had a 71.9% snap share. Second-year center Luke Fortner played 100% of the snaps at center as a rookie, and he graded at a 68, which rated him as the 28th center in the NFL. Brandon Sheriff was the best offensive lineman on the team with an 87 grade, and he played all games with a 96.7% snap share. Sheriff was the number 4 right guard in the NFL. Last year's starting right tackle Jawan Taylor is now with Kansas City. First-round pick Anton Harrison is expected to start at right tackle at the beginning of the year. Harrison is currently nursing a shoulder injury in training camp. The offensive line is the biggest concern of the offense. In training camp, only Luke Fortner and Brandon Sheriff are healthy and playing their natural positions in the starting lineup. The Jaguars' continuous reshuffling of the offensive line may hinder the offensive production this year in a way similar to the offensive line instability the Rams experienced in 2022. Trevor Lawrence broke out in year 2 after a very difficult rookie season. In fantasy football, Trevor was the quarterback 7 in total points scored, and he was 12th in average points per game. His current average draft position is quarterback 8 at pick 60. Lawrence is a late 5th rounder makes sense. I rate Lawrence as my number 59 overall player, but I'm very concerned about the Jaguars' offensive line stunning Lawrence's growth in year 3. Lawrence was very inconsistent last year. He has been fairly boom or bust. The playoff game against the Chargers is a perfect example. 4 picks in the first half, 4 touchdowns, and the greatest comeback in playoff history in the second half. You should probably draft another guy at quarterback in the 13 to 16 range of your board later to supplement the tough spells that you may suffer with Lawrence in your lineup. The wide receiver core in Jacksonville acquired a major talent into the mix with former Atlanta Falcon wide receiver Calvin Ridley. Ridley has been out of action since early 2021. The last full season he played in Atlanta, he caught 90 passes for 1,374 yards and 9 touchdowns. The opportunity to play with an emerging quarterback like Trevor Lawrence alongside a good wide receiver with Christian Kirk will give Ridley a good chance to revive his career. Ridley is currently the wide receiver 20, the 50th player overall, which makes him a 5th round draft pick in fantasy. I think that Ridley is too risky to draft in the top 50. I personally rank Calvin Ridley as my number 75 overall player. My concerns about Ridley actually being the number 2 wide receiver in Jacksonville behind Christian Kirk is legitimate. Plus, he has been away from NFL action for a long time. Deshaun Watson struggled mightily with Cleveland after serving his suspension and being out for nearly 2 years. I think that we may see a similar drop in production for Calvin Ridley as well. Last year, Christian Kirk was the wide receiver 11 in total points. He was number 19 in average points per game, yet he is getting taken as the 34th wide receiver and the 84th player overall. Calvin Ridley is getting drafted 34 spots ahead of Christian Kirk. I personally rate Kirk as my number 18 wide receiver and the 49th player overall. I basically reversed these two guys in my rankings to the ADP, but Christian Kirk has been around a full year longer in this offense, and he's coming off a career year. Interestingly, both players make a similar amount of money to each other, so the Jaguars probably view them equally as talents. Zay Jones was the wide receiver 25 in fantasy points scored and the wide receiver 33 in points per game. He is the number 61 wide receiver in ADP, and he's going in the 12th round. A drop-off should be expected for Zay because of Ridley. Jones is the 138th player in ADP, and I rank him as my 179th player overall, so I wouldn't draft him. Interestingly enough, Christian Kirk's average draft position is actually lower than where Zay Jones produced last year. Evan Ingram had a nice debut season with the Jaguars. He recorded career highs in catches and yards last year. Ingram was the tight end 5 in points scored, and he was tight end 8 in points per game, which makes him a mid-range starter in fantasy football at the tight end position. He is currently the tight end 8, and he's going at pick 73, which makes him a 7th rounder. I rate Ingram a little higher at player 60. In 2022, Travis Etienne was the running back 17 in total points and the running back 22 in points per game. Not bad, but here's the catch. In average draft position right now, Travis Etienne is the running back 10, and he's at the 24 spot in average draft position overall. He is getting drafted in the late 2nd round, but he was the number 22 running back in points per game last year. That production level was risky for the number 24 pick in the draft. Even if Etienne gets better, his ceiling should be limited because the Jaguars also drafted Tank Bigsby in the 3rd round of the NFL draft. The offensive line is also a major concern. They're struggling to put 5 healthy bodies on the field right now, so I'm not sold on Etienne's ADP as a 2nd round draft pick. Najee Harris is getting drafted after Etienne, and I believe that Harris' situation in Pittsburgh is easier to produce fantasy points than Etienne's is in Jacksonville. The Jaguars are as solid in the skill positions on paper as they have ever been as a franchise. Trevor Lawrence is a true franchise quarterback. Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby are 2 good running backs. All 3 wide receivers are proven NFL starters. The Jags even have 2 good tight ends with Evan Ingram and Brenton Strange. The problem is the offensive line is not nearly as strong as the skill group. This issue will probably lead to a lot of Jags players being bust in the 2023 fantasy drafts. If the offensive line plays up to their NFL draft grades and they finally mature, the Jags offense will be a top 5 offense. If not, they can drop below the league average. Being the defending AFC South champions is an unusual place for this franchise. Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback in this division. The AFC South's other 3 teams all drafted quarterbacks in the top 33 picks of the NFL draft. The biggest threat to Jacksonville in 2023 in the division should come from Tennessee if Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry play the whole season. If Tennessee has to move on to either Malik Willis or Will Levis at quarterback, then the Jaguars should repeat as AFC South champions. If you like today's coverage of the Jacksonville Jaguars offense, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.